One is I just arrived in Australia and I was on a visa which required me to work 32 hours a week minimum. The other thing I needed, part of the requirements visa, I needed to get the kids in school, which we did. We needed to get a house. We was going to rent one, but we actually bought one. And most importantly, I didn't want to be on holiday. I needed to get our life sorted out. So with that, you need to pay taxes. So in order to pay taxes, you need to get a job to be able to pay for taxes, pay your super and things like that, and basically get into the system. Another one big factor of it is getting into the life of Australia, obviously the culture, how they work. So for example, on a building site which I was working on, and going on a building site as well, I thought I could do some networking and maybe find a better job, maybe plumbing, maybe carpentry, maybe roof fitter, maybe window, whatever. Anyway, it was getting into the culture of life in Australia.
Yeah.
So we used to start work early in the morning, finish early in the afternoon because obviously the heat. And on a Thursday or Friday, we used to go down the pub and have a beer after work. And I'm not talking about a rave up. You just a couple of beers after work, and you go and get the good old palmy or the good old Australian snitty.
That's right. So I think that's a good point, because a lot of your journey, to a large extent, is very similar to the journeys of most migrants here in Australia. Not all of them are successful as you, I must say. Lots of people give up on the first few years. Lots of people also succeed. I want to hone in on that aspect of your work as a landscaper first, and you sort of alluded to the point that the Australian culture is really important. A lot of the migrants, when I talk to them, they say, well, at interviews they get asked this question: have you got the Australian experience? And a lot of them say to me, what is this Australian experience? I've got global experience. I've got lots of experience from everywhere. So I think what you're pointing out too is the Australian way of life, and getting to know the culture. That's really important in the first few years or even first few months of you being here, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. And there's different names for different things as well, like Fongs. Yeah. Fongs in Australia is different than Fongs in the UK. So, and getting used to, the way people talk, the way they behave, and like it's barbecues around people's houses.
Yes.
It's always the male's job to do barbecues around people's houses. And when you go around people's houses, you take a cool box, you take your beer in there, and you take your meat and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's a quite different culture, but I'm not saying you don't get barbecues and that in the UK. You do, but obviously the weather here, you do more and more of them because
it's more conducive
quickly, but it was more entertainment outside.
That's right. Yeah. Now, what you sort of, fast forward a little bit your career, and you've taken all these skills from the armed forces in the UK and serviced here in Australia for 20 years at First 5 Minutes. You've had, as you said yourself, multidisciplinary roles, lots of different types of roles. So, what makes you so versatile?
Look, in the Air Force, you've got a job to do, and everyone's got a job to do. So, like say, if we've got a deployment to go in, everyone mucks in, and you load the trucks, you get the aircraft ready, and if you're, falling behind, other people jump in and help out. So it makes you versatile. So you could be one day, I could be instructing one day, and then in the evening, I'm going up to the sergeant's mess and we're having a Battle of Britain ball with tablecloths and Axminster carpets and all the rest of it. And on the Monday, I could be in at work and we could have a task of we need to fill a load of sandbags. So I might be in charge of a team filling sandbags. And in order to get that job done quicker, we muck in and we fill the sandbags.
You brought that attitude with you on board, and what I'm hearing, what you're saying is there's no small jobs, there's no dirty jobs, there's just a job to be done.
Just a job to be done. And that's how much it is.
And
that's a job to be done.
Exactly right, yeah. And so before you actually stepped into the role of First 5 Minutes, you mentioned that you did some qualifications. Were those qualifications important to actually align your UK qualifications to the Australian ones?
I had a load of teaching and engineering qualifications. Now, when I got the job with First 5 Minutes, obviously teaching or training people in buildings, and the industry standard requires you to have a Cert 4. So it's all about compliance as well. But I didn't have a Cert 4. Obviously, I didn't have any Australian qualifications. So the state manager at the time, a guy called Pat Ryan, who's just retired, I saw him a few weeks ago actually, and he said to me, right, he would take me on